Hello everyone, I am Rishabh Jain, your new English Grammar 2 teacher. So today in this session, we are going to study about tense. Before studying tense, you must have the knowledge of verb. So let me introduce you with the verb. You have studied the verb in your previous classes and in grammar 1 as well, but let me give you a little bit introduction and little bit uh, facts about the verb, right? So what is verb? Verb are those words which tells us about the action, right? Verbs are those words which tells us about the action. And if you remember, we studied the three forms of verb as well. How many forms of verb we have studied? We have studied three forms of verb as well. That is base form, which is V1, first form of verb. Check it, all of these things are the same. The second one is V2, second form of verb, and the final verb is V3, that is third form of verb. So now moving back to our today's topic, what our today's topic is? Today's topic is tense. Now what are tense? Just read in the below line. Tense tells us about the time of action or verb. What the tense do? Tense tells us about the time of action. At what time your action is performed, that tense tells us. All right. Now on this next slide, on the second slide, we are having the type of tense, right? There are three types of tenses. How many types of tenses are there? Three types of tenses are there. The very first is present tense, second is past tense, third is future tense. We will study these tenses one by one, but before studying or before moving to next slide, let me introduce something about these verbs. The very first is present tense, the action which happens currently, right? Those actions which happens currently lie under the present tense. The second type of tense we have is of the past tense. Now what the past tense is, or about what time past tense tells us? Past tense tells us about the action which are already performed. Let's suppose, think about yesterday, right? You did so many works yesterday. You played, you ate something, right? Of course you ate your dinner, right? You watched TV, right? You talked with your father, you slept, of course, right? So all those actions you did in the past, you have already done. Those actions which you have already performed lie under the past tense. So this is the second part. Now the third one is the future tense. What the future tense is, and about what time it tells us? It tells us about the action which we will do now, right? All the action which we are going to do now come under the future tense. Let's suppose I'm going to give you homework, or there's no need to suppose. I'm going to give you homework and you will do that. Now whenever you will do that, right, well, you will do in future only. That work will be done by you in future only, right? So that is the future tense. Let me again explain you three of the tenses. The very first is the present tense, action which happens currently. The second one is past tense, the action which are already performed by you. And the future tense, the action which you will do now, right? The all the actions which you will do now will lie under the future tense. Now those who are clear with this topic, well and good. If you are not clear with the topic, let me take you the next slides where we will study each and every tense one by one, so you will be clear with those slides. Okay, so here we have the very first slide is of present tense. We have the slide of present tense. Let me zoom it for you people. Yes. Huh. Okay, all right. So here we have the present tense, right? So for the very first point I have written here is verb or action that happens currently. Means at what time this action is performed. At what time the actions are performed in present tense. Currently means in the current situation, the current time the actions are performed. The second point here we use is we use base form of verb. Which form of verb we use? We use the first form, which is the base form of verb. About verb, I have already told you, verbs are what? Verbs are the actions. And how many forms of verb are there? There are three forms of verb: V1, V2 and V3. In present tense, which form we use? We use first form of verb. In present tense, we use first form of verb. I hope I'm clear. Moving on, now we have two interesting point, two very interesting point we have here. The third point is subject is plural. When your subject is plural, then the base form of verb will be used, right? What we will put, we will put the base form of verb, that is V1 only. But if your subject is singular, then the base form of verb we will add s or es. In the base form of verb, what we will add? We will add s or es. I hope I am clear, and if I am not, let me repeat it for you people. Present tense is what? Present tense tells about those actions which happens currently, right? Actions that happens currently lies under the present tense. Which form we use in this tense? We use first form. We use the base form of verb in this tense. Okay, the next point is, if the subject is plural, if you have the plural subject, then you will use the base form of verb, right? And if your subject is singular, then you will add s or es with your base form of verb. Now let me tell you what are singular subject and what are plural subject. Before telling the singular subject and plural subject, let me introduce with the subject. The subject is not your Hindi, English, maths or grammar. No, the subject is what? Who is performing the action, right? If I perform the action, then I'm the subject. If you perform the action, you are the subject. If anyone else, a third person is performing the action, then that will be the subject, right? So if that performing person, if that subject is singular, in that case we will put s or es with the base form of verb. But if the subject is plural, then the base form will be used as it is. There will be no changes in that. I have given you the examples of singular and plural subject. Singular subject is he, she, it or name. These things come under the singular subject. And what are plural subject? You, we, they or I. This come under the plural subject. Now let's take the example. You live in Bhilwara. You live in Bhilwara. So here you is what kind of subject? If you check the about table, you is a kind of plural subject, right? And we have studied in the third point that with plural subject we use the base form of verb, that is V1 only. We don't have to do any. So directly what we have written, you live in Bhilwara, we have written it as it is, right? Second example we have, she writes with her left hand. But from which hand she writes? She writes with her left hand. Now if you check in the about table, she is what kind of subject? She is a kind of singular subject. If she is a singular subject, then with singular subject we add s or es with the base form of verb, right? So here the base form of verb is right, and what we will do, we will add s in the base form, right? So what the verb will be? Right plus s, that complete will be writes. So she writes with her left hand. I hope I am clear with the present tense. And if still you have the query, if still you have the doubt, what you can do, you can again rewind the video, right? You have the option to rewind the video. Please rewind it and watch it again. And those who are clear with the topic, let me take you people ahead. Next slide we are having of past tense. Let me zoom it for you. Yes, here we have the past tense. Now what about the past tenses? Like present tense, the action which are performed currently, which happen currently, lie under the present tense. But what about the past tense? Verb that has already happened, the action which you have already performed, right? Let's suppose you have already drank the water, right? You have already taken your breakfast. So those all actions are of the past tense because you have performed those actions already, right? So that comes under the past tense. Okay, second point here is we use the second form of verb. What is the second form of verb? What we do in the second form of verb? We just change it by adding ed in most of the cases. Not every time we add ed, that varies with the conditions and with the words, but with most of the words we add ed only, right? We will study about those things as well. That will come again in our syllabus, that will come again in the next slides and the next sessions. But today we have to only understand this thing, that in past tense we use the second form of verb, right? We don't use the base form, that is V1. No, we use the second form of verb. Examples, here are some example: plucked, barked, and played. These are the few examples, right? Pluck, plucked, pluck is the base form and plugged is the second form of the verb. So what the thing here is, let's suppose you pluck the flower, right? If you have done it in the past, so what you did, you plugged the flower. You plugged the flower because you have done that action in the past. Barked, who barks? Dog barks, right? I think you all know dog barks, right? So what I will say, dog barked if the action is done in the past or action is already performed. Played, we all play, right? We all play, right? Let's suppose you played in the last night, you played with your parents, with your siblings, you played with your cousins, you played with your friends, you played. So that, what you will say, you will say, I played with my friends, I played with my parents, I played with my siblings. Just because that action is already done, that action has already been performed by you in the past. So there you will use the second form of verb and you will add ed with the verb. Moving on to the next slide, we have the future tense. Future tense is what about what Future tense is about what? Future tense is verb that is about to take place in the coming time. Those action which will happen now. All right. Verb that is about to take place in the coming time means those action which you are going to do now. You have not performed it till now. You are not performing it right now, but you will perform it in the future. Let's suppose when the situation will be normal, right? Currently the COVID situation is going on, so schools are not open, right? But when the situation will be normal, you will come to school again. Yes or no? So here what I used the future tense because when school will reopen, you will come to school that time, right? So what we use in this, if you read the second point of this, we use will before using the verb in future tense, right? We use will before using the verb in future tense. Means before telling about the action, we use the word will. If you see some examples here, we will play the match, right? It's very simple example. Now you are going to play the match. So the sentence, then sentence will be, we will play the match. The second sentence here is, I will score good marks in test. Let's suppose your test is going to be there, right? So then what you can say, I will score good marks in test. And you can only say that when you have studied in a proper manner. If you have studied in proper manner, then you can say, I will score good marks in test. All right. I think all the three types of tenses are clear to you. If still it is not, let's take some more example, and let's take an example of John, right? What we are going to do is we are going to compare the present tense and past tense. The heading is present tense versus past tense. We are going to compare the activities of John, right? The In the left hand side of table, I have written what John does every day, right? What the John does every day. And in the right hand column, I have written what John did yesterday, means the activities done by John yesterday. So in the left hand column, there are the example of present tense, and in the right hand column, there are the examples of past tense. If you read the examples of the left hand side, that is of present tense, then the examples are, he takes his breakfast. Then again, if you see, we have added s with the verb, right? We have added s with the verb. He goes to school, we have added es with the verb. He plays in park, we have added s in the verb with the verb, right? Now if you come to the right hand side part, or in the past tense section, then what John did yesterday, the first task he did, he watched his favorite cartoon. What did he watch? He watched his favorite cartoon. If you watch it carefully, if you see it very carefully, then we have used the second form of verb. We had put ed there, right? We had put ed there. That means we have used second form of verb, right? Second example is, he helped a blind man. To whom he helped? He helped a blind man. Again, the second form of verb is used here. The third example we have is, he watered the plants. What did he do? he watered the plants, right? So again here we have used the second form of verb. So every time when we discuss about the past tense, we use the second form of verb, and in present tense we use the base form of the verb. I hope it is clear. Now this is the last slide. We have the present tense versus past tense again, how you can convert present tense to past tense. If you see the table, we have the column of present tense in the left hand side and past tense in the right hand side. Present tense we have cook, in past tense it become cooked. Present tense we have stop, in past tense it become stopped. What we have did, we have added ed, right? P will come twice, right? P will come twice in the past tense. Present tense we have rob, in past tense we have robbed. Double b will be there in past tense. Present tense wait, in past tense we have the waited, right? So this is the section of present tense and past tense. In this manner you can convert the tense from, or the verb from, first form to second form, present form to past form. I hope that I am clear to you all, and if still you are not clear with the topics, please I request you to rewind the video and watch it again, so that you will be clear with the topics. About homework, I will be sending you the list or the message in the WhatsApp group only. From there you can check what is your homework, right? The video has already become little lengthy, it's already 16 minutes, so I think I should end the session here only. I hope you all got the topic. The last, please stay at home, take care of yourself and your family as well, and keep learning, keep enjoying your day. Thank you for attending the session.